Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Bound to Talk Basketball. I'm Blake Walker. He's Joey Currens. We got Jack Whitmore on the pod here. Finally, Jack, good to have you. You've been watching these forever. We tried to get on tonight. Paul couldn't get on, but Jack, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, good stuff. Great stuff. Jack is on our social media staff. Joined a couple months ago. Joey is our intern / also on our staff. Does a lot of stuff here for the podcast. Boys, we got rankings out. I just finished putting together our total tallies and whatnot for our rankings, and we can go through because that'll be fun, and we can kind of debate them if we want, because there's also a couple things that are not questionable about them, but people will have their questions and whatnot. We're also going to talk about the past games this week. The CIML MVC Invitational was in Cedar Rapids. Jack was on hand, so he can give us a little bit more extra about it. And yeah, so I guess we'll start out with our rankings. This will come out tomorrow morning. Our rankings will come out tomorrow morning, so everything will kind of work together. Boys, there's no change in the top three. Kennedy and Dubuque Senior and North Scott all at the 1, 2, 3 position. I'll ask a general question here to start. Paul, kind of said in the group text after I sent this, he's like, Eastern Iowa is back. Is Eastern Iowa truly back, or is this just the common? We'll see them for a little bit here, and then when we get to the state tournament, the Metro catches right back up.
I think that Kennedy's back for sure. They beat Waukee, but I don't know if I can say North Scott's back. They still haven't played. And they should have been there. Maybe like Assumption got to play in that tournament. They're not even in the MVC or the CML, so maybe throw North Scott in there. And then Dubuque Senior didn't play either. But Kennedy's back. I wouldn't say that the whole whole eastern side of the state's back for sure yet.
Yeah, I agree. I think after watching Kennedy yesterday, they're definitely a great team. Dubuque Senior, North Scott, I haven't seen them play anybody that good yet. They've had a few good wins here and there, but I can't say anything about them. But Kennedy is for sure back as a good team this year.
I think Dubuque Senior plays Kennedy here soon, if I'm not mistaken. So you get your test there, and that'll be pretty good. Waukee is at 4. Valley is at 5. I was really curious to see how this shook out because Waukee beats Valley. We'll talk about that game later. But, Valley, if you watch the game, it still feels like Valley's the better team. In a way, I think a lot of us walked away from that game the other night and thought, well, that's great for Waukee, but boy, how did Valley lose that game? It was just kind of weird. Waukee has lost to Roosevelt and Linn-Mar and now Kennedy. Valley just has losses to Waukee and Centennial. But I don't know. I'm curious what you guys' perspective on Waukee ahead of Valley is. Is it because of the head-to-head?
No, I think it has to be, but I still ranked Valley higher. I think, they didn't lose. We'll talk about the shot later. We can talk for maybe hours on that. I don't know. I watched the clip 100 times, but I think Valley's better, and I think they'll win down the stretch. They obviously lost, and then they took care of business against Linn-Mar. So I still think they're better. They lost the head-to-head, and that's why they're behind in rankings, but I think they're better.
Yeah, I personally put Waukee behind or in front of Valley in the rankings just because of the loss on one head-on-head. Everybody's going to – that's just kind of how it goes. If you lose to somebody straight on, you kind of got to put them ahead in the rankings. But I do still think Valley's a better team. I know for sure CJ was kind of questionable that game against Waukee. He had something with his hip, and then he didn't play at all in the tournament on Saturday. But Valley I still think is a better team. They're still getting their things adjusted with a couple of guys coming back from injury, and Curtis still trying to recover fully. So I think that at the end of the year they'll be a better team. I think they play again one more time. Time this year. So we'll see how that plays out. But I still think they're the better team, even though I put them ahead or behind in the rankings. So
Centennial is at 6, Ankeny is at 7. Those two, as long as Centennial has that head-to-head win and everything kind of holds the same, I don't think Ankeny will jump Centennial, but they're pretty even back-to-back. Linn-Mar at 8. So Linn-Mar was one of the interesting teams because they snuck through, gotten away with a couple, and then they lose back-to-back. They lose to Cedar Falls on Friday night, and then they lose to Valley on Saturday. I think 8 is about where I had them. I just felt like you can't fully punish them because they lost to two very talented basketball teams, but definitely not the best because Linmar still doesn't have a signature win. Waukee, I guess, is their signature win, but they've also lost to Dubuque Senior. So it's like you've kind of lost to, except one, you've lost to every team that has up.
Yeah, I wouldn't say their luck has like run out, but it seems like maybe a little bit of that magic they had in the first half of the season is dwindling quickly. So they need to find that. They need to find that again. They probably fit right in there at the 8. They'll have a couple other tough games coming up. So yeah, but they're still in the rankings with all those guys, but they're not the top team with the other Eastern Iowa teams like they were before because they dropped those 3 games. So
Yeah, I agree. I think, again, watching them this weekend, they weren't a bad team. They hung with Valley pretty well, even though Valley didn't have their star player out or in. They play Kennedy here next week, which would be good to see that game and see how they play against Kennedy. And then they play Iowa City West here in a few weeks, which I think is a really good team as well. So we'll see how that shakes out. But Linmar, still a good team, just some pretty unfortunate losses, I think, going up against really good teams. So
our only team out west is Council Bluffs Lincoln. They made it to the 9 spot. Jack, you had Sioux City East at 10. You were the only one that voted Sioux City East in the top 10. Iowa City West gets the 10 position nod. I like this Iowa City West team. I don't think they're fully put together, but when you have a McCaffrey on there, I feel like every McCaffrey team that has a McCaffrey player on it, Iowa City West, has made it to the state tournament. So I feel like you can't count them out as well. Joey, you had Roosevelt as your number 10 team, which I don't disagree with, but it's a choice. Obviously, the Waukee win goes a long way because if you're using the, hey, we beat this team, who beat this team, Roosevelt technically has a win over Valley. But, yeah, any other thoughts on the back half of this top 10 ranking?
it's pretty up in the air, though. Like any of those teams, and a Cedar Falls team, like you talked about before we started, they didn't make our rankings, and they're solid. So, but PV's not in there. They're pretty good. They've got a couple losses, but we know that they're still good. And then Sioux City East is good. But like I said, Roosevelt beat Waukee, and Waukee's one of our top teams. So I figured I'd throw them in there and see. They beat Grandview too, and Grandview's a top team, another 2A, but it's still a big win. So I put them in at 10. But any of those spots could be filled by any of those teams, really.
I think me and Joey were talking before the podcast had started, I don't know, a couple hours ago or something. We were talking about that in our rankings personally, and he put Velt in there. I like Roosevelt a lot, but they play better competition. They lost to Ames earlier this year, like week 3 or something, and I don't like that loss at all, which is why I didn't put them in there. Sioux City East, I think, is just they have a better record, and they look like a better team on paper than what Roosevelt does, and so I put them in there just to throw them in there, but I think you could fill that 10 spot with pretty much anybody. So
yeah, absolutely. Let's stick on 4A. Let's talk about the games that happened, so that way we're not jumping around. So we'll start with we'll go to our 4A games that were this week. A couple notable games for sure. On Tuesday, Johnston took down Southeast Polk 71-60. Johnston's a weird team. Both these teams are pretty even. This was a bigger head-to-head matchup than I think a lot of people thought, because it's a game of, or both teams have like that one star player that could go off. And if they're not on, then it's like, okay, now they kind of struggle. Bodie Goodman, I mean, Jack, you saw it on Saturday. He can get buckets, but it's kind of on an inconsistent basis. He could either be on or he can be off. Johnston's a high-flying team. Dylan Houston from Marshalltown transfers to Johnston. He's pretty good, but I don't know. It feels like one of these teams, though, could go on one of those sneaky upset runs in February. I mean, I definitely see that happening.
Yeah, I guess Jack cut you off. I like Johnson more than I do Southeast Polk. I agree. I think Bode Goodman's a really good player, but I don't think that he's good enough to carry the Southeast Polk team on his own. There's nobody else really. When I look at their roster, there's nobody I say like, that's a guy that can go out there and make plays like Bode can. And so I don't see Seth really going on a run in the future. I think Johnston has players. Dalen's really good, and then there's somebody else I was looking at. I can't think of him right now. Trevari.
Yep,
Trevari. I think he's really good as well. And so I think Johnston has the ability to make a run later this year if they put things together a little bit better. But I think they're both kind of middle of the pack teams that have an opportunity if they take advantage of it later in the season.
I don't like though when you play a team like Sep, if you have a player like Goodman that's like that high of a caliber, if they have one of those games, it stinks because they can just drop 35 and then you don't even know and you lost because they just play like they just don't miss. But they're pretty vulnerable most games because that's obviously not going to happen. But I wouldn't want to play a team like that in the postseason, so that's why I kind of like them a little bit more, just because I think Goodman has a little bit more of that caliber to like score a ton of points. So I know they're not probably as good of a team, but I think they're a more deadly team, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Centennial, number 8, defeats Waukee Northwest 57-53. This was a close one. Like, I don't think either team got ahead by much the entire game. Luke Winkle has 23. Luke Hart has 16 for Northwest. Northwest, another kind of one of those teams that it's just kind of based on every night. Tigas could be the one that goes off. You know, it just kind of varies from night to night. Centennial's interesting because you look at Luke Winkle and you're like, you know, he is a Bodie Goodman type. He's averaging over 22 plus a game, but it just feels like they still haven't taken that step. They beat Valley, but I called that game and Valley had like the worst shooting night I have ever seen. So I'll start with Jack since he's an Ankeny guy from Ankeny. Like, you know, what does Centennial got to do? You know, it just doesn't feel like they're good, but I don't know. It's just there's something different, and they're all seniors, by the way.
Yeah. So I know I haven't really watched a ton of Centennial. I watched them at the Ankeny game. I was there. They really rely on Luke Winkle to score a ton. They have Chase Shuddy as a big man, and they have a couple other guys that are kind of just there. They're big. They just don't really have much big play. They don't play through them as much. I know Chase Shuddy gets the ball. He's averaging about 8 right now, maybe pushing 9 here. 9 rebounds a game. But I think they rely way too much on one guy to try and make plays. And Luke Winkle's really good, but he's not that kind of guy that is going to go out there and win you a basketball game on his own. You got to play through your bigs, especially in 4A when you have so many guys that have big teams. And I don't think Centennial is big enough to hang as much as like a Valley team or something like that.
Yeah, and I think they had to separate themselves from kind of those middle of the pack teams and beat Northwest by a lot, and they didn't. So then I'm just like, are they just one of those? They're kind of like mediocre, and maybe they're a little bit better, but I don't know if they're up there with Waukee or Valley. They're right in between, kind of that. And I thought if they beat them big, then maybe they are. But yeah, they need to play together more and try to help out Winkle because he can't just do it all himself every single night. So
they have a loss too to Waukee, 70-51.
Yeah,
at home, which was not a pretty loss. They have some good wins too, but lost to Dowling as well by 15. So some interesting losses when they don't play good. It feels like when they don't play good, they get blown out, and when they do, it's pretty close wins against mediocre teams in 4A. So they're an interesting team for sure, but.
Yeah, Dowling defeats. Speaking of Dowling, they beat Urbandale on Tuesday, 67-46. On Thursday, Des Moines Roosevelt gets a ranked win, albeit over a 2A team, but they defeat Grandview Christian 73-59. We kind of talked about Roosevelt. Friday was the big day. Council Bluffs Lincoln loses to Bellevue West, 87-55. Personally, when a team loses to an out-of-state team, I don't really care in the rankings. I think I still kept CB Lincoln up there. The big one, Cedar Falls defeats Linn-Mar 83-76. Pretty good game, overtime game. Anthony Galvin for Cedar Falls, 25 points. Davis Kern, 31 points for Linn-Mar. So I don't know, boys. This is why I was kind of confused on the rankings. Jack, obviously you said eye test wise, Cedar Falls did not look good on Saturday, but in my defense for them, they played an overtime thriller the night before. But what do we make of Cedar Falls?
So I personally am not a big fan of Cedar Falls. I watched them play. Granted, they did play, but so did everybody else on that same Friday. Nobody had really a break. They played a double overtime game, and I understand that's tiring, but you can't really have an excuse when everybody else plays a game as well that same night. And so I think kind of evens out there. And Cedar Falls did not look like a good team when they played Assumption. And I think if you want to be a top team, you have to be able to beat 3A teams, and they didn't beat a 3A team. Whether Assumption is good or not, if you want to be a top 10 in 4A, you got to beat 3A teams and 2A teams and whatever, etc. So you have to beat good team or lower ranking teams if you want to be a good one. So that's my
I don't think a Friday game to a Saturday game is that big of a deal. Maybe a little. I mean, all these guys play AAU and they play like 4 games in a day, so it's not like they're not used to playing back-to-back games. But yeah, the overtime probably doesn't help at all, and they didn't have to travel as far as some of the Central Iowa teams too. But I, I don't know. I think Linmar's better. Like Davis Curran's pretty good. He's averaging well over 20. It's got to be, and he's gonna take them further. I think than Cedar Falls. So we'll go.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of up in the air. Obviously, Cedar Falls has been a very talented team the last couple of years. Usually produces a couple good athletes that head to the state tournament a couple times. So I don't know, just kind of one of those things. Iowa City West gets past Xavier 61-53. Tough week for Xavier. Loses on back-to-back days. They lost to Marion on Saturday as well. Des Moines North gets past Des Moines East 68-36. You have, Joey, what's your note here? You say, is Des Moines North sneaky? They've lost to Velt and Southeast Polk by 2, out-of-state team, and then they beat Grandview Christian. I don't know. I don't
know. I just put it in there, but they have. I don't know. I don't think I'd really want to play them as much as I'd want to. They haven't played quite as many teams, and like they said, they lost to Southeast Polk. But I don't know. I just put it in there. They're probably not super sneaky, but I wouldn't want them to be like my 4 or my 5 seed in my bracket, and I have to play them if I'm a 1 seed. I'd rather play a team that's not as good as them. I think There's a lot worse teams than you could get than Des Moines North. So. I don't know. We don't have to talk about that for very
long. We'll end it with the biggest game, in my opinion, the best game that we have seen in a long time, especially here in the state of Iowa. Double overtime, number 7 Waukee defeats number 2 Valley 82-81. Valley was up 35-22 at the break. I was calling the game. I turned to my color commentator. I'm like, well, looks like Valley's it. Like I was like, Valley got Zay Robinson back, and that's the big difference. And then Waukee just kind of hung around, and then finally they get back into it. They force a couple turnovers. Double overtime, Zay Robinson hits a shot to what we think win it. They get the timeout off, which they did. They got the timeout off, and then with 0.5 seconds left, Mason Costello hits the just over half-court buzzer beater to hit it. First of all, let's talk about the ending sequence since everybody has thoughts on the ending sequences. What should we start with? Okay, for one, we know he got it off. There is video and photo evidence. What? No, I'm saying he got the ball out of his hand. There, from Tyler's video on the baseline, the ball is out of his hand and the clock up on the scoreboard. Now, here's another thing. The clock up on the scoreboard said 0.1. The clock on the what do you call it? The baseline. The baseline table. It says 0.0. What clock are we supposed to be going off of? And then the biggest thing is, can you really get that shot off in 0.5 seconds?
I think he took a step too. Didn't he take a step too? Like caught the ball, took a step, and
took 2 steps and launched.
There's no way you get that off in 0.5.
There's no way. There's no way. Yeah, I'm sorry. There's no way, man.
One of the biggest things I thought is there's just no way you could have waved that off, though. Like, you can't hit that shot, and no official, especially in high school, would be like, no, I didn't get it. Like,
you can't review it either.
No.
You can't, go back and look at it. You don't have review, and so I know there's a lot of people that I saw in, comment sections from videos and stuff, why didn't they review it? It's like, what are they going to review? They're going to go ask some random fan for their phone and look back and review it off that?
Right.
I think he got it off, looking at the videos, but it's just kind of if you think about it logically, it's kind of hard to get that much, 2 steps and just shot off in 0.5, 0.5, a half a second. It's not, just doesn't feel
like I think it's on well, sorry, I cut you off. The refs have to have their own clock to some degree, and they got to know there's no way that he could get that off. It almost has to be a catch and a really quick shot, or almost a tip in. I feel at 0.5, and he caught it, took 2 steps, turned his whole body around, and shot it half quarter and made it. So.
And also could have been something where they didn't start the clock right away too. I didn't even look at that. I didn't even look at if they started the clock the moment he caught the ball.
It's tough because on the broadcast, we use a software that captures the score, and it's maybe a tad behind, something like that. So it's kind of hard to tell. But overall, shot aside, huge win for Waukee. And like I said, Valley outplayed Waukee, in my opinion, in every part of the game. But just somehow, some way, Waukee got going. Evan Jacobson did not score in the first half. He scores 16 or something in the second half. Mason Costello has a phenomenal game. But it just feels like with this Valley team, they can be the best team in the state by far. It's just everything kind of has to gel together at the right time, which is what happened when they won the state tournament last year.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, you sure? You can have it.
No,
so I think you guys mentioned on the last podcast, which I was listening to, and I completely agree. You guys had kind of said last year, they started out slow like they did this year, and then right near the end, they kind of gathered it all together and ended up winning the whole thing last year, which I agree with this year. Again, they started off kind of slow. They've had injuries, which of Zay has really, them missing Zay has been huge, and now I don't know when Curtis is supposed to return. I think he's supposed to return next week, but I'm not going to say anything just because people are going to believe me and he's not going to show up and all of a sudden I'm in trouble for some reason. But I think Valley, in my opinion, Valley, when they are fully healthy, is the best team in the state. And I think that they probably wouldn't lose a game if they're fully healthy the entire season. I think they are really, like, they realistically could go undefeated. I think they're the best team in the state. But Evan Jacobson, you said 16. He's got 21 in the second half, which is absurd. And for one half a game, and Waukee just manages to stick with people. I think they're a gritty team, and they're able to stick with people, especially watch them against Kennedy there for first half of the game. They stuck with them the entire time. So I don't know.
And I will say when Trevin Jurak, the center for Valley, when he fouled out in the first overtime, you knew it was just going to be really tough for Valley because he's gotten better every single week, it feels like. And now that Valley has him playing at a really good spot and Zay's back, like I said on the broadcast, usually you could say, okay, when this guy checks out, the team's not the same. That whole starting five, one guy could check out. It doesn't matter. Like Kiki Dang did not have a great night. It doesn't matter. He could have a great night every night. Curtis Stinson missed a couple layups. He could still have a good night. Like, I'm not saying everything worked in Waukee's favor because I still don't think it did. It was just kind of one of those games where I left and I'm like, how did Waukee win that game?
They'll just, once they get it clicked back together, it'll be over and the state's just in trouble and they're going to run the shit for the rest of the year. So
I will say, was it one of the best finishes you guys have ever seen? On top
crazy,
of the double overtime.
I've never seen that.
Yeah.
I've never seen it either.
So it made SportsCenter. Made SportsCenter's number one play. A lot of people were mad that the Boyer Valley shot didn't make number one on SportsCenter, or it didn't get as much attention. I think what people have to realize is nothing against Boyer Valley, but it was Waukee and Valley. It's one of the two biggest schools in the state, and it's double overtime. Like, I get it. End of regulation, yes. But the fact that it was double overtime, you didn't need, like, they had to have a 3 to win it. Like, that's just, you can't write that any better. Also, the student section did not care about storming the court. They, like, mobbed the court. But I don't know. I just think it was one of the best finishes the state's ever seen, probably ever.
I think wow, good voice or words. I think it's also key to note that they hit a 3 right before as well with 0.5 seconds left, right? So they got
Valley hit the 2.
Valley. So or it was a 2, sorry, and to put them up again,
which they thought won the game.
Yeah, right. And so like you have this already. It's tight game, double overtime, and then they hit a shot which probably could have been the buzzer beater pretty much to end the entire game, and then you ended up hitting another shot.
I think I even said on the broadcast, I'm like, well, that's it. I was like, he just won it because, I don't know.
Yeah, I think
that's why it's
so. Go ahead.
It's so cool that they won like that, but then we don't know if it counts because they said it counts. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, there's just no way. It was insanely cool, but I don't know what to think.
Okay. So I'll quickly ask, what happens when these two teams play again?
Valley rolls them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Valley rolls through them.
I think that's the general consensus here.
I think a lot of people know it too. I talked with Mason, or no, I didn't talk with Mason. No, I was talking with Zay actually before the game on Saturday. And he kind of like quickly talked to me about the game real quick and had just said, like they didn't, you mentioned Kiki didn't play very well and Curtis was kind of going through an injury with his hip there.
Yeah.
And so he wasn't playing fully at his, he missed some layups here and there, and that's his hip isn't the cause of that, but not a fully healthy team, and Kiki's not playing very well. And I think when they play again later this year, Valley's going to be more put together and they're going to steamroll everybody. It's not nothing against Waukee. It's just Valley's just going to be better.
It reminds me of last year when Northwest beat Waukee on the buzzer beater pretty much, and then they turn around and Waukee just destroys them the next time they play, because now Valley has something to look forward to. Now you can think about that like all next couple weeks. Joey, do you have something?
No, I just think everybody knows who's the best, and I think all three of us know who the best is, and it doesn't matter. Once it gets down to it, they're the best team, so I think they'll roll everybody once everybody gets healthy, to be honest.
I think it was funny too. Oh,
go ahead, Jack. No, go ahead.
I think it was funny. So when I was sitting on Saturday, when Waukee touched the floor for that final game, there were Valley kids there and just like Cedar Rapids kids and whoever, just fans there. Everybody was just chirping Mason the entire time during warm-ups, like, you didn't make that shot. And he was smiling. I wonder if he knows, like, maybe I didn't get it off or something. I don't know. I thought that was pretty funny. I'm like sitting there watching them warm up, and I just got kids behind me just yelling at Mason the entire time about how he didn't get the shot off and all this. And I thought it was pretty funny.
I hope he enjoyed his moment, because he's never going to forget it. We'll quickly run through the Saturday stuff because we're going really long here on 4A. But Pleasant Valley defeats Ames 45-29. PV obviously made it to the state tournament last year. Look like they could be decent again this year. Southeast Polk defeats Prairie. Bodie Goodman goes off for 35. Waukee Northwest takes care of Liberty. Good win for the Wolves. Ankeny gets past Bettendorf 78-53. Iowa City West defeats Dowling. That wasn't in okay, so that was somewhere else. So Iowa City West, big win over Dowling. Jack McCaffrey has 14-9. Joey Capola 18-5. Valley gets past Linn-Mar 54-42. Again, I think if Valley didn't just go to double overtime the night before, I think this could have been a little bit bigger. And then the big one, Waukee can't beat the number 1 and number 2 team in back-to-back nights. Kennedy defeats Waukee 65-54. Great win for Cedar Rapids Kennedy. Again, I don't want to just say that because they played Friday it made a big difference, but I just wonder, if they did get the day off, what would have happened. But good day. Jack, just quickly, while we're finishing up on 4A, kind of explain Saturday. Like, I mean, what was it? Did it just feel like a tournament, or, like...
Yeah, so Saturday was fun. I think it's the first time I've ever done something like this, or maybe something similar. It just felt like an AAU tournament almost. There aren't a ton of fans there. It's this huge stadium, and it's you can kind of just feel it's just team on team. There's no advantage whatsoever, except for kind of the Kennedy team had an advantage, obviously. But you got to really see if these teams out east are better and if they're like legit teams. And I think you kind of find out that some of them aren't, and you kind of find out that Kennedy is. And you also get to see teams like Waukee, where they come off of a great win last night, and then you look at them and you see them play a team that could be good, like Kennedy, and they come short. And you kind of just see a better side of teams because there's no home court advantage. You don't see that same energy. I think there wasn't a lot of talking that I heard between the teams. It was just straight up basketball, so that was cool to see as well. And you can kind of hear them play like that, but. It was a good experience. It's a good atmosphere to just be around, just basketball and a lot of good games going on all day. So
we will see it again on January 27th. Waukee is hosting the next one, which it's not as many teams, but it's still a good chunk of teams. Should be a lot of ranked teams, so that should be fun to watch. We'll jump on to 3A, where our rankings have a new number 1. Clear Lake is our new number 1. Most of us had Clear Lake at 1. It was a pretty good split. A lot of us had Clear Lake. A lot of us had ADM. ADM is number 2. Solon is at 3. Bishop Heelan is 4. Congratulations, Davenport Assumption. You have been ranked. They go all the way up to 5th. I said if they beat whoever they played on Friday and they beat Cedar Falls, I was like, I'm putting them in. I don't care. So Assumption goes to 5. Jack has a couple things to say about Assumption later. Decorah drops from 1 to 6, which in my opinion is kind of harsh. But, I mean, they got destroyed by Waverly Shell Rock. It really wasn't close. Nevada is at 7. Waverly Shell Rock jumps from 10th to 8th. They still have a couple losses, but still a good win. MOC Floyd Valley is at 9, and then Ballard is at 10. Anything stand out about that? I guess I'll quickly go to Jack because he got to watch Assumption. Assumption has a couple losses. They've lost to PV. They've lost to North Scott. But, Jack, you claim this is one of the better teams you've seen.
Yeah, so I think, again, and I'm only really good with 4A. That's all I really know. And so I'm very limited here. I'm not going to say much because I don't know much about 3A, 2A, 1A. But Assumption, from watching them, they're a great team. They have a lot of players that can kind of just go out there and make plays. I was kind of looking at their roster last night. And going through it after I saw them kind of step on the floor. And when going into that game, I thought Cedar Falls was going to roll through them just because it's a good team. But no, Cedar Falls, so their own Damian Jackson played really well along with Navon Chabaz. Those are the two guys that you got to kind of watch out for on Assumption. Assumption played really well with those two guys, and it's kind of like a power duo. They play through each other the entire time. They have somebody else too, Kavion Hodges as well, who's pretty good. But I think it's just a Damian Jackson, Navon Chabaz show at Assumption, and it's just a two-man game the entire time, and it's hard to beat them. So if you can stop those two, you guys are in good shape, but just two really good players and a really good basketball team. So,
Joey, your thoughts on the top 10?
I got to give a standing O to Assumption. And the Instagram commenters, I got to give you a standing O there. We got Stephen A. Smith in the comments because they knew it was coming, and hats off to them. So I think, yeah, that's a big win. I had them all the way up at 3. They're obviously going to be tough now that we know they're for real. I had ADM number 1. I'm a Raccoon River guy, so I had to put them at number 1. They have some really big pieces, and for them to only have 1 loss in the Raccoon River is pretty crazy to me. I think Clear Lake is pretty good. I'm not really completely sold. They have the win against Waverly, so that's a pretty big win, and that kind of got solidified as a huge win when they kind of smacked the crap out of Decorah. But they won't play a whole lot. They play Nevada this week, and then that's it. I think if they win Nevada, they're not going to face anybody as good as them for the rest of the year. We had did you say we had Heel in 4 and then Soul in 3? They need to do a Raccoon River WAMAC one of the CIML MVC then. Like, adapt that, because I want to see if Solin's for real, and I want all those guys to play each other. Because I had Ballard at 4 because I think they're really solid. They have like 3 losses, but I think they're really good. So Waverly's obviously going to be scary now that they just beat the number 1 team by 30. So, yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about that here as we roll through games. Let's go through these. Tuesday, Clear Lake defeats St. Edmund. Thomas Meyer has 17. ADM rolls over Carlisle. They also beat Winterset this week. Carroll defeats Boone. Carroll had a couple votes to be in our top 10. Bondurant gets past Gilbert 74-70. Tanner Berggren had 35 points. Good game from him. Harlan defeats Lewis Central 42-37. 36 turnovers combined. That's nice. Central DeWitt defeats Maquoketa. Ballard gets past North Polk. Knoxville defeats Eddyville, Blakesburg, Fremont by 3. Solon defeats Maquoketa on Thursday. Assumption gets past Bettendorf 79-77. So again, it's close, but winning is winning. MOC Floyd Valley defeats Lamar's. Mount Vernon gets past Clinton, not by much. Mount Vernon beats and upsets Williamsburg. Williamsburg wasn't in our original top 10. They're not in this week's top 10. They're an interesting team, Williamsburg is. I was kind of surprised they were ranked in the top 10 for the association.
Yeah, that's why I want to see if those WAMAC teams are all that. I don't think Mount Vernon, they beat Clinton. Clinton's 0-9. They only beat them by 9 points. That's crazy. They're still searching for their first win, so they're playing hard, but you can't beat a team that's winless only by 9 if you're that good, which they might be ranked in the boys' rankings since they've only got a couple losses in the Williamsburg. But, yeah, Williamsburg's weird. I don't know. They didn't have their stats in, so they need to get their stats in. But Mount Vernon only shot 32% from the field and won the game, so they must obviously not play too hot that well.
Williamsburg lost to Grinnell earlier. Grinnell just beat CPU, who hadn't won a game yet this year, by 3. So I don't know. Things are interesting in the WAMAC, that's for sure. The big game that everyone was talking about, Waverly Shell Rock just handles Decorah 84-57. Cole Marsh for Waverly Shell Rock has 28. Luke Frazel has 18. Noah Frazel has 14. 12 of 19 from 3. It looks like Decorah just didn't shoot the ball.
Yeah, they didn't play well. My friends from up there, he said that they thought that they had a couple guys hurt maybe in that game, and I'm not really 100%, so don't quote me. And that wouldn't help at all, right? But I'm not sure if that was true, but they just said they played terrible. And yeah, they only shot 35% from the field, and they just got rolled. So we'll see. I think they'll probably play. I don't know if they'll play again maybe or not this year, but that was a game. That was going to be a big game anyways, and then Waverly kind of just blew it out of the water, so there's not a whole lot to talk about there. But
yeah. Marion gets past Xavier, like I talked about, 55-37. Just a tough week for Xavier, back-to-back nights. And then, like we talked about, Assumption defeats Cedar Falls. Assumption obviously jumps into our top 5. So there's a look at Class 3A. Pretty fun week all across the board. It was our class that people didn't like the most. So hopefully we'll see if they appreciate these rankings a little bit more. But, yeah, let's roll on to Class 2A. West Lyon and Western Christian round out your top 2. West Lyon is number 1. Western Christian is number 2. Only like 1 point separated these two, so really no change. Underwood is at 3. Hudson is at 4. Does Hudson drop? Do you remember where you guys put Hudson? Because Hudson's best loss was Decorah. And now that Decorah loses, it's like, does that hurt Hudson any?
No, I think Decorah is still really good. I wish I could rewatch that tape and see what happens. Hudson's only loss is them, and I think Decorah is still really good. So I had them at 4. They'll still be good. They probably won't lose another game maybe for the rest of the year unless they play somebody that I'm not thinking about, but they're still good.
Jack,
yeah, I think I had Hudson at 4, maybe 3. I think I might have them at 3. I don't know. It was 3 or 4. I still think that all their games really haven't been super close at all. Besides the Decorah game, they kind of lost by like 8, and so it was at Decorah too, which I think is kind of hurtful, just because you're playing away. No matter who you're playing against, you're playing away. Always hurts you. But I still think that Hudson's a pretty good team. That's why I put them so high in my rankings personally, and I think Decorah is still a good team despite their loss. And I think every team's got bad games, and so despite Decorah's loss, I still don't really think it changes them much either. So,
yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it shapes. Monticello at 5. South Hamilton, welcome to the top 10. They are at number 6. They upset Roland Story, so they jump Roland Story. Roland Story is at the 7 spot. Kemper Catholic is at 8. Somebody put Kemper Catholic at number 3. I don't know who that guy was. It wasn't me. West Burlington is at 9. And Osage is at number 10. So Osage and West Burlington still hold true. The only new team in the rankings is South Hamilton. North Fayette Valley drops out if they were. I think it was North Fayette Valley. 2A, pretty solid. I think it's your top 2, and then it's kind of everyone else right now.
Yeah, stop sleeping on Kemper, everybody. Y'all are all sleeping on Kemper. Stop doing that. They have 1 loss. It's to Carroll by 1, and Carroll's really good, and it was on a buzzer beater. So how do we count them out? I don't know. They beat Harlan, they beat Van Meter, and you guys are all sleeping on them. They're solid. Carson Canny is pretty good, and then they have a sophomore who's plenty talented. So you guys need to stop sleeping on Kemper.
All right, Jack and I will stop sleeping on Kemper.
Good.
I can't wait till he gets proved wrong.
I can't wait. I mean, I'm not saying Kemper's a bad team at all. I don't think they're a 3. Like I did not put them 3. I think I put them like 6 or 7.
What's their schedule rank, Joey, on our Bound Power Index?
96.
Okay. Well, that's not terrible, but it's also
it's not good. I mean, they play. So let's see. They play. I'm looking at their schedule right now. They play Bishop. That's it. That's all I got.
They play Grandview, Lewis. They play South Hamilton, so we'll see them smoke South Hamilton.
There is nobody more high on Grandview Christian than Joey.
Dude, come on. You can't count them out.
Brandon Christian's
I'm not,
a
but, like,
terrible team, but they're not a team that like
they're not what they were.
I'm not gonna look at them like,
No,
wow,
I
that's
know.
gonna be a tough matchup for Kipper.
Yeah.
That's gonna be one.
I don't
tough
want to play a
matchup.
6'9" kid, dude. Do you guys? Because I know
but
he
like
scores like 30 a game, and they got a couple.
Sephora has a
I don't know.
6'9" guy, and we didn't.
That's true. That's true.
Okay. Well,
Whatever.
looking at the 2A games that happened this week, Western Christian got past an out-of-state team, 100-77. Western Christian is just so good, man. That Bishop Heelan game, again, that's I think why Bishop Heelan got ranked so highly, is that Bishop Heelan almost beat Western Christian. So I wouldn't give up on the Crusaders just yet. Comanche upsets West Branch 63-58. Earlham beats Woodward Granger. Linville slowly defeats Pleasantville. Regina Catholic holds off Burlington Notre Dame. They also beat Lisbon. That's a good win. The big game this week in 2A / affected 1A. Well, for us, it really didn't. We'll talk about that here in a second. But Des Moines Christian upsets Earlham 59-43. Again, how do you guys look at the class disparity? Like, especially in 2A and 1A. Like, if a 1A school upsets a 2A school, like, is that the same? You know, like, I don't know. It's just in football, I'd say yes, some cases, but like, I don't know. Yes, it's a good win for Des Moines Christian, but how big of a win is it?
Well, I think it just solidifies that I think they're good. I don't think Earlham's quite the team that everybody had them ranked as. I don't think they're not going to be number 3 anymore, and they beat Granger by 4, and they're not very solid. But I don't think it's like – I actually think the 2A and the 1A classes are closer this year. There's a few of these 1A teams that could compete in 2A, not many of them. But like Northland could be up there, I think, with any of these teams, to be honest. But like that loss, that'll hurt them for a while, especially because Earlham won't play a whole lot of teams maybe for the rest. Actually, yeah, they will because they play like Madrid and those guys. So, but that's 16 points. I don't think there's that big of a difference between 2A or 1A where that's like you can't just throw that under the rug because they're a 2A team.
Yeah, that is something. A couple more on Friday. Western Christian defeated Sioux City North 70-54. Central Lions sneaks past Rock Valley 70-66. That's probably a really fun game. Cherokee defeats ELC 63-57. Jack, I guess I'll ask you. Owen Larson is one of the best players in the state, but I don't know if that boy has any help over there at ELC.
No, I again, it's like one of those things that I have said like multiple times throughout this thing where you have like teams where in basketball you can have one player that can kind of carry you to wins and carry you through games, but I don't think Owen Larson is good enough at Esterville to carry his whole team on his back on his own, right? And so he was averaging what? He was averaging the most in basketball
Almost
or in
30,
Iowa, for a long time there. And he's a really good player, but I don't think he's good enough to carry his own team on his back, especially when you have like almost no help around you. Like when you have basically nothing around you, you have to have like good players around you as well. Like you can have your Taman Lipsy or you can have your Omaha, whatever you want to call it. But if you have nobody else around you, it's not going to go well for you. So you got to have more than just Owen Larson on a team to be a successful team. So I think that's what they're kind of going through right now. So
he's really, really solid, but it's just like in 4A, your role players who probably aren't as good as like the Goodman for Southeast Polk, they're not as high of a caliber as like the role players that ELC needs to like be a solid complete team. So it's basically just Larson, and then they've felt the repercussions because they keep losing on teams that they shouldn't lose to, like Cherokee Washington. So
the big upset of the week, South Hamilton gives Roland Story their first loss of the season, 63-55. Wilkinson has 27 points. He had 15 of the first 17 points in the first quarter, and then he's only held to 12 the rest of the way. So good job by South Hamilton. That win propels them into the top 10. Their only losses to Nevada, I think, that's around that conference area. So good win for the Eagles. West Lyon holds on or takes care of Unity Christian, a good Unity Christian, may I add, 73-46. Pella Christian defeats Pella in the Battle of the Roses Dutch Windmill Bowl, 59-54. PC is always going to be tough. Joey and I talked about this last week on the podcast. They play in the Little Hawkeye Conference. They play all these good teams. You can never count out Pella Christian. They are always going to be good when they get to the state tournament, if they get to the state tournament. Jack, without looking, who do you think Trainer beat on Saturday that Joey's favorite team is?
Couldn't I? Gilbert's.
No, not
what?
Gilbert.
No.
I don't know. You said Joey. I can't tell you, but I don't pay
Grandview
attention to this
Christian,
stuff.
man.
Oh yeah. You said
Trainer-
Joey's favorite team, and I immediately
Oh,
thought to
well,
Gilbert
yeah.
like right away. You can't
The
say
bias.
that.
Well,
The
Gilbert
bias.
is my favorite, but
Sorry,
And he was.
that's why immediately I was like, Gilbert? I was like, what do they play Gilbert?
Yeah,
But-
Trainer defeats Grandview Christian 74-60. It's safe to say I don't think Grandview Christian will be ranked in the Boys Association rankings next week. But nonetheless, good game for Evan Kahns of Trainer and Alec Lovely. Applington Parkersburg defeats Van Meter 54-47. I don't know about this Van Meter team, man. I mean, they're good. They've had close games. They've beaten some good teams, but they've also lost a couple that they probably should have won. And then Kemper defeats East Sac County 82-67. Any thoughts on two-way as we wrap it up?
Watch out for Kemper.
I was just about to say, like, I don't think, again, don't quote me on anything. I'm not a 2A expert. I'm like, apparently, I'm not gonna say that right. I just don't think that Kemper is a number 3 ranked team in the state, but I guess they could prove me wrong. I guess and then I can make a T-shirt for it. But
Yeah, I don't know.
Right,
We'll
do
see.
it.
We'll see.
Get
what
it
happens.
prepped.
Yeah. Class
We'll see.
1A is where we go for our final rankings. Marquette Catholic holds as our number 1 team. Somebody put Marquette Catholic at number 3. I'm at Joey. Was that you?
probably.
No, I had him too.
Okay.
And two.
Somebody
Paul.
put Paul probably put
Jeez,
Marquette
Paul.
Catholic. Somebody
Paul.
put them at number 3, but they are number 1 in ours. North Lynn is at 2, Keota is at 3, and Key is at 4. I can tell you right now, 1 through 4 pretty much stayed the same. Like not really much changed. Those look to be the top 4 teams in the state. The big surprise to me was Earlham loses to Des Moines Christian 59-43, and Earlham does not move in our rankings. It was their first loss of the year. I'll give them that. It was to a 2A team. I'll give them that, but Earlham does not move. They sit at number 5. I put Winfield Mount Union at 5 because I think they're pretty talented. It's basically their whole football team is their basketball team, but Winfield Mount Union is at 6. ACGC jumps to the top 10. They are number 7. They beat Madrid, so they fall. Madrid drops to 8. Linville Sully is at 9, and then Lake Mills cracks the top 10. And somebody, again, can't name names, somebody ranked ACGC at number 3. Again, we will not refer names, but somebody thought a 2-loss ACGC team beat Madrid and was like, that's number 3 team listed.
Dude, what? Okay, do we just get a look at Keota? They have the 333rd schedule rank, and we're gonna put them at like 3 or something. I can't keep looking at that and saying that. I know Northland is good. We know Northland is good. They have 294 schedule. We know that. And Marquette's obviously they have a couple of bigger wins. But Keota and Winfield Mountain Union have beat nobody. So I'm not going to sit here and just let them be there.
For me is yes, but at the same time, you still haven't lost. I mean, we're getting down to it where there's not many undefeated teams left, you know? I don't know. Jack, your thoughts?
I just think you can't go against numbers, right? Like whether they play against nobody or not, like you have 11-0, 12-0, 11-0, 11-0. That's why I put them up there, especially because we already had them ranked up there. You can't just knock them down after not losing. Right? You can't just knock them down again. But I guess you also have Earlham, who we didn't knock down either. So
the biggest thing I always try to do when I'm ranking them is I try not to think like, well, they'll be there at the end. Like, if that's the case, I would have put Valley at number 1 over Kennedy because in my mind, I'm like,
that's fair.
Valley's the best team. So I tried to vote in the now. Like, yes, is ACGC probably better than Key and Keota? Would they win in them head-to-head? Maybe. Who knows? Probably, maybe not. But that's just kind of how I looked at it. I still ranked ACGC. I think everyone ranked ACGC for the most part. It's just that I still want to at least give benefit to the teams that haven't lost. And then when they lose, guess what? If you lose one, if you're Keota or Key and you lose one game, you're probably dropping quite a bit. I mean, that's just kind of how it works. So enjoy it at the top, beat a couple more teams if you can. But if you slip, you're going to fall because your undefeated status is what was keeping you up there.
You guys probably would have put Florida State in the playoff too. I'm guessing then.
Did I no, because Yeah,
That's different, Joey. That's completely different. That's at the
Well,
end
is it?
already.
Is it that much different?
That's already at the end, and you're looking at who's the better team. That's the
Kyoto
entire
Key
point
has
of that
an
playoff.
injured quarterback, honestly, right now.
Yeah, that's fair. I get it. And maybe I'm ranking them bad, and I probably am, but
Joey
they can go on the Bound website. They can go Bound IA on the website and see themselves at number 1 in the power rankings and take all the pictures you want. But you don't like Kyoto and Key are number 1 and number 2 in that, but they're not in my rankings, so they can go look for that.
And that's why you're the intern, Joey.
You didn't rank Kyoto.
I know it is. I had Kyoto. I don't know if I had Key ranked at all. I'm gonna be honest.
You have
maybe I need to improve in my rank. I think I did. I need to improve in my rankings.
So hang on.
So you didn't have Key at all in your top 10, like not in your top 10 at all.
I just think that all the teams.
How are you going to take the most winning team in the state and not put them at your top 10 at all? No matter who they play, like they're 12-0. There's not a single other team in
Let me give you guys a little bit of background. So for the people watching and listening, we do the AP style voting. So if you put a team at number 1, they get 10 points. If you put a team at number 2, they get 9, so on and so forth, all the way down to 1 point for the 10th position. So Marquette had 56 points. Northland 50, Kyoto 45, Key 41. ACGC only had 23. Earlham had 26. And ACGC, the big thing for ACGC was Joey placed them at 3. And then somebody had them at 6, somebody had them at 7, and then 2 guys had them at 8. So, I mean, I don't know. It just kind of goes either way. Someone also had Madrid at 4. I don't know who had Madrid at 4.
That was Blake for sure.
It wasn't me. I can tell you that right now.
Dude, I had Madrid at 4. That was me. Okay, so I'll stop. When I went on these, I just literally go and I'm like, okay, if this team's better than this team, I'm putting them there. And I kind of look at the records, but if I think they're better, I'll put them above it. I need to stop then, obviously, and I need to rank them how I should rank them. But like I had Lake Mills at number 6, and nobody else ranks Lake Mills, but they're really good. So
okay, so
they only have 1 loss opposed to 2.
3 guys voted for Lake Mills. You put them at 6. Somebody put them at 7, and then somebody put them at 9.
I put Lake Mills at 7.
Okay.
I like Lake Mills.
They were a 2A. They were a 2A team last year. Yeah, they were a 2A team last year that went to state, and now we're just not ranking them. They have 1 loss. I think it's to a.
Joey also voted for North Union at 5.
Oh,
North Union beat Lake Mills in ELC, so and their only losses to an out-of-state team in Bishop Garrigan.
Joey also didn't rank South O'Brien, but they lost.
Yes, I did. I ranked South O'Brien.
Oh, that was the thing. You ranked them, but you didn't know they lost.
I didn't mean to. I should have replaced South O'Brien with Key. That's my bad. Holy Trinity, they have 3 losses. They're 8-3. They're good. Okay, they're good.
You put an
Just
8-3 team in there.
Did any of you?
12-0 team in
were
there?
one of you two one of the guys that voted for Bedford? Somebody voted for Bedford at 10.
No,
I didn't vote for Bedford.
Okay, so it
I
wasn't
didn't realize that Winfield beat Holy Trinity. That's on me.
I think I put
all right.
in there somewhere.
I'll improve. I'm taking a vow right now. I'll improve on my rankings.
How Joey improves on his ranking abilities. Let's quickly run through the games that happened this week, and then we'll wrap it up. So Baxter defeated Janesville 54-51. Trayton Travis, he's a bucket. 31 points. He's had a couple big 30-point games. Winfield Mount Union takes care of business against Hillcrest Academy. Key defeats Waukee. Let's see. IK Manning defeats Coon Rapids Bayer. Remsen defeats Kingsley Pearson by 1. I think Remsen had 2 votes for the top 10, maybe. Dunkerton defeats Baxter 58-54. Dunkerton's a weird team. They only have 1 loss. They're like the highest scoring team in the state, but I think their loss must have been pretty bad, and their wins aren't great for the most part. Lake Mills defeats Forest City. Remsen gets past George Little Rock. ACGC, that's the big one. They defeat Madrid 54-47. Noah Kading, 20 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists. Jathan South, 10 points. And then Madrid, Fabian Ortiz Alanas had 14 points as well. Torrance Severson with 10. And then, like you talked about, MMCRU hands South O'Brien their first loss of the year, 62-51. Linville Sully defeats Colonesco, and then ACGC defeats Exeria EHK. Jathan South has 26 points. So fun week in Class 1A, probably the most controversial, probably the most that have the most like teams in there because there's a lot. I mean, there's what? Almost 80, almost 100 teams in Class 1A, something like that. So there's a lot to choose from in the back half of it. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's our last part of the segment. We'll wrap this up before we get to an hour. Jack, we're going to pick our winners this week. We have games this week, so we're going to pick some games. We'll start out with the first one. Pella Christian takes on Knoxville. PC and Knoxville. Knoxville defeated Eddyville, Blacksburg, Fremont. Pella Christian defeats Pella. We'll start with Jack, then we'll go Joey, and then I'll pick. So, Jack, you go first.
Pella Christian. I think it's pretty easy.
All right.
I'll take the Panthers. They got a stud. Landon Norris is a stud. We posted about him a couple times. He can put up 40 and he can yam it. So I got Landon Norris in the Panthers.
I'm gonna roll with Jack just because of the little Hawkeye. I just think the LHC is just a little bit better. I think Pella Christian's played a little bit better opponents. I'll take the Eagles. Number 3 ADM hosts Carroll. It's a trap game for ADM, in my opinion, at least.
I still like. I mean, I'm high on ADM. I think they're a really good team. I put them pretty high up, so I'm going ADM as well. I think I put them like second in my rankings or something like that. So I'm going ADM. But
I really like ADM, but I'm going to take Carroll. Evan Hammer's really good. I just think they'll upset him. I don't think ADM's going to go undefeated in the Raccoon, and I think Carroll and Ballard are the only two teams that can beat him. So I'm going to take Carroll here. I think Evan Hammer's one of the best players in 3A, so we'll see. They haven't really faced a player like him. I'll take Carroll.
I'll roll with ADM. I think ADM's got a pretty good shot here. I like that they got a good team around him. Also, yeah, that kid. Who was the kid that dunked the one that we posted? That was pretty good.
That's Adam Bright for ADM. He's plenty good. He's
fun to watch as well. Number 1, Cedar Rapids Kennedy will face Linn-Mar. Linn-Mar is 8 in our rankings. Jack, what do you got?
Cedar Rapids Kennedy's going to smoke them out of the water, blow them out of the water.
Yeah, Linn-Mar's done. So let's just throw the dirt on the top of the grave.
I think it'll be a good game. I like Trey McCowan has done great. I mean, he's their star. Cedar Rapids Kennedy just seems to be rolling. I'm curious to see how Linn-Mar responds after these last 2 days. So, I mean, it's not like it's a quick turnaround. I mean, you got to get things figured out pretty quickly. But I'm with you guys. I think Kennedy's rolling right now and Linn-Mar is slipping. But if you want to bounce back, no other way to bounce back than this. So, good luck to Kennedy in that one. Clear Lake takes on Nevada, another top 10 matchup. Jack, what do you got?
I put Clear Lake 1 in my rankings, so I can't really go against the number 1 team in my rankings, especially when you're going up against somebody that's not ranked. They might be ranked in our rankings. I don't remember. I don't think they are.
Nevada's ranked.
They are? Okay. They were. I still like Clear Lake.
They're ranked in ours, I should say. Sorry.
Yeah, they're ranked in ours. That's what I thought. I still like Clear Lake, so I'm going with them.
I think Clear Lake, I put them like you guys said, I had to rank them, so I ranked them second. I think they're overrated. They're going to win against Nevada, but they play in that North Iowa Cedar League or something, and they don't play anybody good, and they'll probably just win out for the rest of the year, and then they'll get beaten in sub-state. But they'll win this game. They'll take care of Nevada pretty good.
I have always been a Nevada guy. Obviously, I have family that goes to Nevada. I pick Nevada all the time for football. Their only loss to the season is to Roland Story, the best team they've faced. Clear Lake's a very talented team. They've been in the state tournament the last couple seasons. I'll take Clear Lake, but I think it'll be close. I don't think it's going to be a crazy, crazy blowout game. So give me the Lions. Another Pella Christian game on here. Pella Christian faces Dallas Center Grimes. So now you have a 2A team jumping up to play a 4A team. DCG was flirting with our top 10. They had top 10 votes just before Christmas break, but they lost to Johnston, so that kind of derailed it. Jack, does Pella Christian go up a couple classes and take down Dallas Center Grimes?
No, I don't think so. It's another one of those things. Well, I think Pella Christian's a really good team, but I think 4A is a huge jump to go to, so I'm going to take DCG for that reason, but I still don't think it's really going to affect Pella Christian at all. So I wouldn't say if you look at that and you see them lose, don't change anything about them. But it's 4A, but I think DCG takes care of business.
I'll take DCG and my boy Jonathan Howard. He's a stud. He's averaging like 15, but I'll take DCG.
If it's in DCG, I'd probably take DCG. If it's in Pella Christian, I'd be leaning toward PC, but I'll take the Mustangs. I think Dallas Center Grimes gets it done, but I think Pella Christian could cause a couple problems for him. That's for sure. Ankeny takes on Waukee, number 9, or it'll be number 8 versus number 4 in our rankings. Ankeny won this game last year. At least they took one of the two against Waukee. Carson Johnson's a bucket. Mason Costello, one of the hottest players right now, most talked about right now. Jack, what do you got?
I'm biased, and every single time, it feels like every single time I vote against Ankeny, they for some reason win, and then I get hated on. So I'm going to go Ankeny, and Carson Johnson is a bucket getter. He's unguardable, so I'm going to go with Ankeny here.
I'll take Waukee and the Warriors. I think they'll avenge their loss on Saturday and prove everybody wrong that they're the best team in CIML, and that shot should have counted. So I got Costello and the Warriors.
I don't know. This is going to be tough. You know, Waukee, highest of highs, and then you lose to Kennedy, obviously the number 1 team. They still held with Kennedy pretty well. Ankeny got a good win over Bettendorf. I mean, that ever since that Centennial loss, they've really been moving pretty well. I mean, they're very solid. Aguirre's a good player. Carson Johnson's a good player. Is this in Ankeny, Jack? Do you know?
I got no idea. I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't know off the top of my head, though.
It's another one of those that kind of flips. I'll roll with Waukee, but this just feels like one of those CIML games that kind of sneaks up on you, and Ankeny can do it. But I'll roll with Waukee. North Lynn takes on Regina. Could be a sneaky game for the Lynx. We talked about that Bishop Healing game that not Bishop Healing, but they played a couple tough teams, play a lot of out-of-state teams. You think the Lynx roll again here?
Yeah, I'm taking Lynn. I was looking at it earlier. They have like a 45-point differential, which I thought was kind of crazy. And I think they're a really good team. They can hang with a lot of two-way teams too. And I don't think Regina can hang with North. I think North Lynn's like a legit, really good team that could hang with. I might go on a limb here, and I might say they might even be able to hang with some 3A teams. I'm gonna say that. But
I agree with you actually.
North Lynn.
But I like both these teams. I'm going to side with Northland as well. I do like this. I think this Regina team's kind of scary. They had a couple wins. The Notre Dame win's good. They've lost to some really good teams, and then they smacked Lisbon. So, but I'm going to take Northland, but I do like that Regina team. I think it'll be a really good game.
Yeah, I'll roll with you guys. I think Northland's, they're talented. I mean, they're well coached. They don't lose. Give me Northland. Number 3 ADM, another tough test. The two teams that Joey thinks that they could lose to, they face this week. Ballard takes on number 3 ADM. Can the Bombers get it done, Jack?
I actually am going to take Ballard here. I know earlier I said ADM was one of the high teams that I was on, but I like Ballard a lot too. I saw a family that goes there, but I like Ballard a lot, and so I think that they can pull off an upset. They're a really good team too. I think they're ranked in our rankings again. Yep. So I like Ballard again, so I'm going to take them.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with Ballard too. That's crazy. I shouldn't say that, but I'm going to go with Ballard.
Well, I'm going to go with Ballard too. I was legit going to go with
They're getting a big piece back. They are. They got Miles Mudd coming back, he was a part of their team last year, and he's coming back from an ACL, so they're only going to get better. And once I think he gets back into the rotation, I think he averaged like 12 last year, so they're really solid. They play really tough defense, and I think they'll give ADM trouble.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think ADM's going to lose one of these two games this week, whether it's Carroll or Ballard. If they win both, I almost would put ADM as my number 1 team. But yeah, they're going to slip one. I just feel like in Ballard seems the more favorable matchup. The Bombers are tough. Carroll's a good team. Obviously, they beat Kemper. But yeah, I think Ballard could get this thing done here later this week. Iowa City West and Jack McCaffrey take on Anthony Galvin of Cedar Falls. Cedar Falls loses to Assumption, but they beat Linn-Mar. Take Linn-Mar as you will. Iowa City West they've won some games, but it doesn't feel like they're like winning the big games. Jack, what do you think? You've seen Cedar Falls, obviously.
Yeah, I've seen Cedar Falls, and I'm gonna guarantee you after this comes out, everybody from Cedar Falls is gonna see me and hate me, and here we go. But I like Jack McCaffrey. I think I'm an Iowa State fan. I hate the McCaffreys, but McCaffrey's a good player. And so I'm going to go City West just because I think they're a good team, and I don't like Cedar Falls as a team right now. They did not look good at all. So hopefully they prove me wrong. But
yeah, I'm with Jack. I like McCaffrey too. So
yeah, I'll roll with Iowa City West. I think Cedar Falls. Well, no, I'm not. What am I saying? Sorry. Cedar Falls. I'll take Cedar Falls. I think they recovered from last week. Iowa City West still haven't been able to close the big games yet. It just feels like. So I think the Tigers get it done against the Trojans. Last game, good game. Kemper Catholic takes on Bishop Heelan, two very talented teams, very similar teams. It feels like somebody's going to get a good win here when these two teams face.
Oh, just because I'm going to piss Joey off, I'm going to go Heelan. I love Matt Knoll. I love Matt Knoll. I've watched him play a few times. I've watched some of his highlights just because I think I was doing a graphic for him one time for us. He's a great player. I love watching him play. He's really talented, fun to watch. So I'm going to go Bishop Heelan just because I want to piss Joey off. But
you know who I'm picking. Give me Kemper, baby. And you guys are gonna hear it on the next pod. They're gonna win it, and I'm putting them number 1 in 2A once they win this game. I don't care. I'm putting them number 1. If you beat Heelan, you're number 1. So I got Kemper. Let's go Knights, baby.
I'm gonna roll the team that was only 4 points away from beating Western Christian, who's only lost like 9 games in the last 6 years. So I like
Doesn't matter.
Bishop Heelan has a winning culture. Give me Bishop Heelan and Matt Knoll. I think the Crusaders get past Kemper. So, well, boys, that was fun. It's fun when Joey and I do it. It's 2 guys, but adding a third guy is really fun. Hopefully, we can get Paul on here eventually, and then we can really get going. But
yeah, Paul says
that was again. Yeah, seriously. But rankings will be out tomorrow. This podcast will be out tomorrow, January 8th, in the morning. I will say we named a lot of those games. It's very possible some of them won't happen. There's a massive snowstorm coming to the state of Iowa. So most likely probably not going to see a lot of games happen on Monday and Tuesday, but hopefully everything clears out and Thursday and Friday can be played. But hopefully everyone has a good week ahead. Don't get snowed in. Jackson, thanks for joining us. Joey, thanks for hopping on as well. And yeah, that's all I got. We will see everyone next week for Bound to Talk Basketball. Thanks for watching, everyone.